SpaceX betting big on AI coding startup Cursor in a deal that could be worth up to $60 billion. SpaceX says the deal will allow the rocket company to, quote, build the world's most useful AI models as it takes on rivals like OpenAI and Anthropic in intensifying AI race. Joining us right now is Michael Fertik. He is the founder and managing director of Heroic Ventures, a VC that's investing in AI and machine learning. And he just so happened to be the first investor in AnySphere, that is the parent company of Cursor. And he made that investment back in 2022. So, Michael, we should probably just congratulate you right now, based at least on the valuation and the possibility of a $60 billion deal. I should ask you maybe just straight up, what do you think the chances are that the full deal happens as opposed to sort of the $10 billion upfront piece of all of this? And maybe you should explain to the audience what's happening here.
Okay, thanks very much, Andrew. So the deal, as the public understands it, is that SpaceX has effectively a one-way option to purchase AnySphere for $60 billion this year. I think everyone knows that SpaceX is supposedly going to have an IPO maybe this summer. What we don't know is whether the acquisition might happen before the IPO, after the IPO, with pre-IPO shares of SpaceX, post-IPO shares of SpaceX, cash, whatever. Then the other element of the deal to which you just adverted is that in the case that SpaceX does not execute the transaction, then there's a kind of $10 billion effectively breakup fee, as we understand it, which may be logged as revenue, not sure, but that's the kind of the path B. I think the chance that it concludes seems to me very high. Why? Because the tie-up makes sense, right? SpaceX, which has a component of it called XAI, which is Elon's dream to have an AI that is an AGI or a general intelligence, needs to have a coding AI element, which would be AnySphere Cursor, in order to achieve dominance in AI software development. That's important because AI software development right now is the only manifestly obvious commercial use case that's been proved to be huge of artificial intelligence yet today. It's not script writing or art. It's software development. And as we all know, Anthropic, Claude, sort of OpenAI maybe are the two leaders in this field, Anthropic, Claude being the king right now. And this tie-up between AnySphere and SpaceX, XAI, I think has a chance to take the crown away from Anthropic and become the king. And I think that's why it makes sense and so valuable to SpaceX.
Can you explain how Cursor works, though, and what the model itself looks like? Because my understanding is it's effectively using, to some degree, other models.
Yeah, so Cursor is the product from AnySphere, and it's a software development environment where you can write code, and then the AI helps you write the code faster and better and more effectively. Very powerful. And they started life basically using OpenAI, Codex and so forth, and they lean more on Anthropic, Claude. And then it's been published that they've been using their own models, developing their own models, but also even transitioning to open source or Chinese models to bring down their costs. And one of the things that I think the public understands, we understand from the media, that one of the decisions that Cursor was facing, AnySphere was facing, was whether they could afford the enormous compute power to develop their own models to compete with Anthropic and OpenAI. And so this deal, I think, began life as a way for AnySphere to get less expensive compute power from SpaceX and their Colossus, their ginormous.
Right. But Michael, here's the piece that I don't understand. I mean, it's clear that Elon, having just purchased XAI, and basically argued that for SpaceX to succeed, they need XAI. He's since said that XAI needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. And then now he's saying he needs to buy Cursor, but underneath Cursor is not an actual model. And so I think there are people in the AI space that are sort of scratching their head about all of this.
Well, you're certainly allowed to scratch your head. Let's take a giant step back. So what we know from the public information is that Elon Musk was trying with XAI to build his own software AI powerhouse a la Claude or a la Codex from OpenAI. Number two, we know that he seems to have cleaned house a couple months ago, fired everybody, fired most of the people, and decided he had to start again because his effort was not working. Three, we know that he hired away from AnySphere Cursor two of the top lieutenants at that company who are responsible for software development AI at AnySphere-Cursor. Those two guys actually were lured away to SpaceX XAI about 10 months into their tenure at AnySphere. That's important because, as your audience might know, it takes a year for your first vesting cliff to happen when you join a new startup like AnySphere-Cursor. So those guys must have been very attracted to whatever offer Elon gave them. They went a couple months ago, and then, presto bingo, 2 months later, Elon Musk, in a very super duper Elon Musk power move, says, "I'll just take the whole thing," the way he did with Twitter X, right? I'll just take the entire thing, AnySphere-Cursor. So I think that tie-up makes sense. And by the way, just in case there are doubters out there, I think CNBC audience tends to be very patriotic, but you know how I feel about these things. Just in case there are any doubters out there, this is a God bless America moment, right? Where else in history would a kid from Pakistan, a kid from Sweden, two kids from New York, I'm talking about the AnySphere-Cursor team, be able in 4 years to build a company and sell it to a guy from South Africa for $60 billion. So the American dream is very much alive. It's a shot in the arm. It's not possible anywhere else. And no matter where the models come from, I mean, God bless this American country.
Well, Michael, let me just ask you a separate question that we talked to Walter Isaacson about yesterday, though. Look, I always thought that XAI probably should have been sold, frankly, to Tesla if it was going to be sold to one of Elon's companies, even though I know public shareholders of Tesla probably wouldn't have necessarily allowed that to happen. And the reason I always thought that was because from the extent you want to have a large language model and you're planning to do cars and humanoids and all of that, you actually need a model to run them. The SpaceX argument was always a different argument. The SpaceX argument, to me at least, was always about data centers potentially in space. But it wasn't always clear that you needed to own a large language model to actually have the data centers, meaning actually you could even be the Switzerland of data centers and have all of these models running on your data centers in space. It didn't matter that you had the large language model. So the reason I'm sort of pushing on the issue of where you think XAI ultimately goes, its value proposition versus Cursor, and the fact that it doesn't have an underlying model, and therefore what its full valuation should ultimately be. Do you see where I'm going with this?
I do, and I think it's a sort of a Jedi-level question, Andrew. Although I think we can agree that the Kremlinology of like how Elon Musk's empire and various multiple pieces on the puzzle board, on the chessboard work together is probably mysterious even to those who are close to him, perhaps even to Elon Musk himself. Right? This is a complex empire. I think we can also agree that we are in maybe the first inning, maybe the early part of the first inning of the AI revolution, maybe 1 or 2% towards the 100% that's coming. And I think we can therefore agree that AI in its full expression, which now is mostly textual, TEX, textual, is just beginning and will pay enormous dividends inside text-based, but also inside other types of visualized AI and so forth. And whether you're talking about data centers in space or just how to make the rocket ships go better, faster, cheaper, how to make the factories that make the rocket ships go better, faster, cheaper, how to make the systems that operate on these rocket ships go better, faster, cheaper. I don't really know that we can accurately predict today what the second and third inning will manifest and yield. And the truth is that every single enormous company in the future is going to need enormous compute, enormous AI capabilities, and a team that lives at the frontier of artificial intelligence, which clearly AnySphere does. Right? This is a company, AnySphere, that was a rocket ship that's being bought by a literal rocket ship company, SpaceX. And so I think
that it is.
That it is, yeah.